Hello friends, welcome to our channel Knowledge Amplifier. So today in this particular video we are going to explore how to run GitHub Action when there is code change in a specific directory in our repository. Okay, so to show you this particular demo, as a first step what I will do, I am going to create a repository and here I can give the name maybe demo path base trigger, and here I can keep this particular repository as private, and keeping other properties default, I am going to create this repository. Okay, and now here I will quickly create some folder structure and files for our repository. For example, let src be a folder, and here I can create one subdirectory within it, function1, and then here main.py, and here I can write a simple Python code print hello world. Okay, right, and I will commit these changes, and within src only I am going to create another directory with name function2 and then slash main2.py, and here I can type a function hello world 2. Okay, so just to show you the demo, I am basically creating some dummy directory structure. So it looks like this. Within our repository we are having src folder, within which we are having function1 and function2, and within that here in function1 we are having main.py, and in function2 we are having main2.py. Okay, now let's create a very simple GitHub action workflow. So create a new file, and here we should be having the folder name as .github, then slash workflows, and within that here I can give my YAML file name as demoyt.ym, right? And here I can put some sample code, which is a very simple action we are executing. The workflow name is selective run on push event. So whenever we commit and push some code in our this repository, this workflow will run. Within this workflow we are having jobs with the name notification, which will run on ubuntu-latest machine, and it is basically having 3 steps. The first step is default step, what we generally do, that is check out of the repository, and the next 2 steps are dummy step, which is just printing hello world 1 and hello world 2. Now as soon as I will commit the changes, it is nothing but a push event will happen in our this particular repository. So due to this particular portion of the code, the workflow will trigger, because this workflow should run whenever there is any push event, and our action should run and print hello world 1 and hello world 2 respectively. So here I will commit the changes. Changes committed. I will open actions in a new tab, and here no workflow started, and here you can see create demo yt.yml. So we have created this particular YAML file, so that's why this particular action is started. We can go inside this particular workflow, and here you can see all these steps are getting executed. So first step was check out of the repository, second step was execution of dummy step 1, and the third step was execution of dummy step 2. If I expand all of them, here you will see in dummy step 2 it has printed hello world 2, and in dummy step 1 it has printed hello world 1 as per our expectation, right? So this code is working perfectly fine. So let me just duplicate this. So this is our current repository structure, where we are having CICD section and our code folder. Now here the code is written in such a way that whenever there is any push event in our repository, this CICD action will run. But suppose I want to run my workflow only if there is code changes in this functions1 subdirectory within our src directory. So that time how to change the code? Let's explore that first. Okay, so for this particular implementation, let's check GitHub workflow documentation if it helps. So GitHub workflow syntax for GitHub action, and if you explore this particular documentation, here you will be seeing one option in the right hand side that path level filtering is available. Okay, so what it basically says, if you go through these examples, So on push is basically indicating whenever there is any push event in our repository, the code should run, right? But if you want to trigger your workflow only if in the push event there are code changes in the sub-projects directory. Within sub-projects directory, whatever files are there, maybe there are subfolders, within subfolders there are files. If there some file are changed, that time only if you want to trigger your workflow, you have to mention like this way, paths, and then here you have to provide the location where you want to check for the file change. And before this particular directory, if you put exclamatory mark, that means those subdirectories it will ignore. That means suppose there are some push event within sub projects, within docs, there are some changes, but still the code will not run because here we have given exclamatory mark. So that will ignore in that workflow run. Okay. So I hope you are getting little sense out of it, that all we have to do, like here earlier we were using only on push, but this time if we want to trigger our workflow whenever there are some code changes in some specific paths, we have to mention paths colon, we have to mention the location where code changes we want to inspect, and based on that our workflow will be triggered. So here let me put that in our GitHub action code. So here on push, and then here I'll give a colon and I'll follow the same syntax, here paths, and then here we want to trigger our workflow only if there are some code changes within src folder and in functions directory. So I will just follow that same syntax whatever is provided here within quotation src, then function1, then quotation close, and then here start. So it is basically indicating within our src folder in our function1 subdirectory, if there is any code change in the push event, then only trigger it. So here there is some error we are getting. So okay, so indentation is not correct here, so I need to make sure indentation is correct. It looks pretty much same only, just we have to put one hyphen here. So what will happen in this particular workflow, that earlier when we were committing, it was kind of a push event in our repository, so due to only on push condition the workflow was running. But this time it will not run with this commit and push, because now we are committing the changes in the .github directory within workflows. In this particular YAML file we are changing, but in the condition we have written that if there is any code change within src directory in function1 subdirectory, then only the workflow should run. So now if I commit the code, you will see that the action will not be getting triggered. So here I'll go to action section, and if I refresh, here you will see that no new workflow is started. And I hope the reason is clear to you, because the code change is done in demo yt YAML, which is not available in this particular location. So now let's inspect if we just change the file within this expected location, that is src function1, whether the workflow will be triggered or not. So maybe hello world 1 2 3 something I have written, and I'll commit the changes. So now with this commit, the code will be pushed and there will be file change in src folder within function1 subdirectory, and based on this particular logic, this time a new workflow should start. So if I refresh, currently you can see only one workflow has ran. I'll just commit the changes, and here if I refresh, here you will see beautifully our workflow is triggered. So this workflow is triggered not only due to push event, but along with push event there is one more condition, that there are file changes in src folder within that in function1 subdirectory. Okay, right? And I can show you the negation case also. So here I can put a exclamatory mark. So this will tell our GitHub action that if there is push event and if there is any file change within src folder in function1 subdirectory, then don't run. For all other cases, run it. So if I just commit the changes this time in this particular GitHub action, obviously the changes are not within this particular directory, so one action or workflow will be triggered. So if I save and if I go to action, here if I refresh, so here the workflow is not yet triggered. So on push paths not equal to this. So ideally it should trigger. Let's see. So here workflow is not yet triggered. Let's check the documentation once. Is there something written specific to this? And yeah, here it is written, if you define a path with exclamatory character, you must also define at least one path without the exclamatory character. Okay, that is fine. So because here we have configured only without exclamatory character, so the code is not running. We have to configure accordingly. So we want to ignore the code changes in this path, that is fine. But we have to mention at least one path without exclamatory. So here I can put the code like this way, that if there is code changes in any location, so star means any location but apart from this location. So let's run it and let's see. So now this time what should happen, because demo yt.yaml is falling under any location, so ideally one workflow should be triggered, and you can see here just now one workflow got triggered. Okay, and here it is running and it ran successfully. And now let's change some code within src folder in function1, and here maybe I will just commit the changes with hello world 1234, but this time no workflow should be triggered, because here we have configured the condition such that anywhere code change, please run it, but if the code change within src function1 folder, then don't run it, right? So because we are changing in src1 folder within function1 subdirectory, so due to this commit and push, no new workflow should be triggered, right? So let's refresh. So here you can see that no new workflow got triggered. So that means this paths concept is clear to us. Based on this paths configuration, we can run our workflow based on code changes in some specific directory, or we can ignore code changes in some specific directory, right? I hope this concept is clear to you. So now let's explore another variation of this particular use case, and that is here when we are using this particular filter condition, either all the steps are running or all the steps are getting ignored depending on filter criteria, right? If there is code changes anywhere apart from this particular location, then all the steps are running, and if there is code change only in this particular location, the code is not getting executed, right? And this filter condition is applicable for all these steps. But what if we want to run steps selectively? That is, for example, here in this particular workflow we are having 3 steps. The first 2 steps we want to run always, but the third step we want to run only if there is code change in some specific folder, and we should not run this particular step if there is no code change in that specific folder. So how to control in that step level, that let us try to explore now. Okay, so to implement this particular functionality, there is no direct way. We have to use a custom GitHub Action code, and that let me show you. So here you can search in Google path filtering GitHub Action. So here in the first link you will be getting one particular custom code which is reusable, and you can use in your GitHub Action to run a specific step if there is code change in some specific subdirectory in your repository. Okay, so how to use that you can explore using this particular documentation. Let me directly go to the example and explain you. So we have to use this particular uses block, and this is the reusable method we have to use. The ID for this particular block is changes. You can put any ID, and within with block we can mention different filters. Like here in this case we are having only one filter. The filter name is src, and this particular filter will return yes if there is code change in this particular folder. That is within our repository. Suppose we are having a folder called src. Within src, if there is any code change, maybe new code got added or existing code is modified, then this particular filter value will be true. Okay, and based on that, in the successive step we can filter and run specific steps based on the state of this particular value. Like for example, all we need to do, we need to apply this kind of filter condition, that steps dot changes. So steps is basically mentioning the step, and changes, so because here we need to refer this particular step which is having ID changes, so here we are taking changes, and outputs, because we need to find out what output this particular step is providing. And here, as I told you, within with block we might have multiple filter. So for src filter, what is the value if we want to check? So this is how we need to configure the variable, and if this value is true, and when the value will be true, only if there are code changes within src directory, then only we want to run the code. So this is how we can control the step run based on code change in some specific directory. So let me just copy this and execute that here, so we'll be getting better idea out of it. So I will just remove the filter from here. So this time what will happen, I want to only control execution of this particular step based on code change in some specific directory. So here I will put the code from the example. Here I need to make sure indentation is proper. So here uses block, I can provide some name block also here. So here I can give execution decider. Okay. So here what this particular step will do, it will basically check whether in this particular location there is any code change or not. So here src, so in our case, suppose we want to check within src in function directory there is any code change or not. So I can put like this way, /function /star. Okay. So what it will do, using this particular block, src variable will be having value true if there is code change in this directory, or else it will be having value false if there is no code change in this directory. And based on that, we can run this particular step. So all we have to do, we have to apply a filter condition like they have mentioned here. Okay. So if in steps the ID is changes, so here we are putting that in the outputs, and the filter name is src. If that value is taking true, then only we should run, else we should not run. Okay. So now let's inspect how it is working. So I'll commit the changes. Now it is another push event, but this push event we are doing within .github folder in workflows directory, right? So obviously these two steps will be running, not at all a problem. But here if you see this particular step, when it will be executing, because the code changes is not in this particular directory, so src variable will be false, and due to that this dummy step 2 will not be running because the if condition will not be satisfied. As simple as that. So I'll commit the changes, and here I can go to actions. So here you can see it failed. Let's see why it failed. Maybe there is some indentation error. So I will just try to edit it. Okay, sorry. So here I should not be putting hyphen here. Yeah, now the code looks good. Now I will commit and push, and as a result what will happen, the first two steps, that is checkout and dummy step 1 should be executed. Then this step will execute. It will check whether here in this location there is any code change or not. Because there is no code change, the value will be false. This particular value will be false, and as a result dummy step 2 will not be executed. So let's go to action, and here again it failed. So here again, here also we should not be putting hyphen. Sorry for this issue. I'll save this, and let's go to actions, and here you can see the step is started, and I can go inside this particular workflow. It is starting. First checkout execution is done, then step 1 execution is also done because it is not having any filter. Then our this particular method got executed, and here you can see the src filter value is taking false because in this particular location there is no code change, and as a result dummy step 2 is ignored, right? Because here we have given this particular filter condition, right? So now let's see. I'll just cancel the changes. Let this particular code be as it is, and what I will do, I will do some code change in this particular location. Hello world, maybe 5 I will add, and I'll commit the changes. So this time obviously these first 3 steps will be executed, and 4th step will also be executing, because here this time the src variable will be taking value true because there is code change in this particular location, right? So let's go to the action. Here you can see one more step got executed just now. Here we can go inside that, and here we can go inside that, and here you can see this time dummy step 2, this particular step is also executed, and the reason is here filter src value is true, right? So I hope you are getting the idea that how to control step level execution based on file change. That is, we have to use this particular reusable code. Okay, so maybe I can show you another variation. So what I can do, I can take this particular step just after checkout, and I'll make the indentation proper. Yep, and here I can put one more filter. So we can put multiple filters. So here src f1 and here src f2. Okay, so src f1 will check whether there is any code change in the function1 subdirectory within our src directory or not, and src f2, this variable will check whether there is any code change in function2 subdirectory within our src directory or not. And if there is any code change in this particular function1 location, that time we want to run our dummy step 1. So here, if there is code change in src f1, then we want to run our dummy step 1, and dummy step 2 we should run if there is code change in function2 subdirectory. So the variable is src f2 we need to check. So I'll just update that here. And now I will commit. So due to this commit, what will happen? Because the commit we are doing within .github workflows, which is not coming neither in this location nor in this location. So both src f1 and f2 variable value will be false. As a result, both of these steps will not be executed. Right? So let's commit the changes. The changes are committed. And let's go to the action. And here it is started. So only the checkout and the execution decider step will be executed. Both dummy 1 and dummy 2 steps will be ignored. And the reason is very simple. There is no code change in function 1 subdirectory as well as function 2 subdirectory. So here you can see both the variable values are false. Okay, right? Now let's see. Suppose I am doing some code change in the function 2 subdirectory. What I will do, I will add a file, create new file, and here hello hi. So this is a text file a.txt. Let's consider. Just we are adding some file within this function 2 subdirectory. So there is a code change. So as a result, src f2 variable value will be true. So although this particular step will not be executed, but these steps will be executed because there is no code change in function 1 subdirectory, but there is code change or code addition in function 2 subdirectory. So let's see. I'll go to action, and this is the new workflow which ran. If I open this, here you will see that dummy step 1 is skipped, but dummy step 2 has ran successfully. And the reason is very simple, that src f1 variable value is false because there is no code change in function 1 subdirectory within src folder, but because there is code change in function 2 subdirectory in src folder due to a.txt addition, so this variable is taking value true, and that's why dummy step 2 is getting executed. And similarly, I can make some code change now in function 1 subdirectory. In main.py, here I can put hello world 56 and I'll commit the changes. So now this time there is code change in function 1 subdirectory. So as a result, dummy step 1 will be executed because src f1 value will be true because there is code change, but src f2 value will be false because there is no code change here. As a result, dummy step 2 will not be executed. So this is our latest workflow which is running. If I go inside that, here you will see that dummy step 1 will be passed, but dummy step 2 will be ignored. So this is how, based on file change in some specific directory, we can run certain step or ignore certain step. So I hope you understood both in workflow level as well as in step level how you can control the CICD run based on file changes, right? I hope you understood this. Obviously, you can explore more about this particular reusable code from this particular documentation. I'll be providing this particular link in the description box. You can explore from here, try to play with it, try to do some hands-on. That way you will be getting better idea out of it. This is all for this video. If you find this video helpful, then please like, share and comment. Subscribe our channel if you have not subscribed till now, and don't forget to press the bell icon to get the notification of our latest videos. Thank you for watching.